Welcome back, everybody. This is
That's
again.
a good way to start off.
We're going to start out with a conversation about reclaiming America, and I'm Bill, and this is Dan. And Dan and I are going to have a very special show for you today. Dan, tell them about it.
It's going to be 90% me and 10% you, probably. So,
which is usual because I'm humble and quiet.
We're going to talk about something that's been around for, 12 years now, give or take?
Yeah, just about.
Obamacare. And the reason we're doing that is we want to do a show on this because as we're filming this, this is the time of year everybody's looking at their medical.
And God, I can't wait till December 5th when those commercials go off.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that day.
So I have been a vocal opponent of Obamacare since day one. And we sat back in, 2010, 2011, in that area, and they were all gung-ho about it. What were they saying back then, Bill? Do you remember?
You're going to save us money. It's going to give you better care. You get to keep your doctor.
That was the biggest lie of all.
Of all of it, yeah. And you can actually keep your plan if you like it.
Those plans don't even exist anymore.
Nope.
Back in the day, for those of you who are younger,
Thank you.
Most plans, in general, covered 80-20, it was known as.
Generally, yeah.
Generally, right, there were exceptions, but basically, the insurance paid 80% of your medical bill, you paid 20%. Your prescriptions might have been $3 to $5, that type of thing.
And they also, sometimes they negotiated with companies and hospitals, and they would say, this is what we're going to pay, yeah. And the hospital would agree to it, so you didn't pay anything.
Exactly. And you could pretty much go anywhere you wanted for medical care. Right. And the Democrats took power. Obama became president. They took Congress, both houses.
And doctors sometimes visit your house.
Now, that's when they had horse and buggies there, Bill. But for those of you who aren't old enough to know this, but this was all touted. Obamacare was put in as we're going to help everyone.
Right.
We're going to make sure that the things that Bill listed, you can still keep your doctor. That was the biggest lie of all. Costs were going to go down, both for the insurance and for insured. Medical care.
That's right. And the quality of medical care would go up.
It was going to go up. There were going to be more options. This thing was touted as the fix of all fixes. And then the bill came in. And the bill was about off the table.
And nobody read it.
What was the infamous line? Do you remember what Nancy Pelosi said?
Oh, you got to pass it so you know what's in it. You can't
I'll read it after I vote for it, basically. So they voted for it without reading it.
And by the way, that was strictly all a Democratic vote, by the way.
I was going to say, was there...
There was not a Republican that supported it in either house.
Right. I was trying to remember as I was driving here.
I remember that distinctly.
To my knowledge, it wasn't 0-2, so you can confirm in what I said.
So the Republicans then were taking a good stand, or they were afraid. This
is in 2010. Now we move along, and we'll get into more of that as we move along. But come along 2018, the Republican Party's platform, part of it was, we're going to get rid of Obamacare, or fix it.
Actually, it was 2016.
16. Remember that?
I do remember
How'd that work out, Bill?
They made some very minor changes. And when I say minor,
they stopped calling it Obamacare. I mean, they did nothing, essentially, right?
Nothing of any consequence.
Right. So, again, by then, it was much of what we're going to talk about today was already known.
They were elected under the promise that they would eliminate Obamacare or severely modify it.
Right. Now we're in 2023. And what I did, because I thought my goal with this show is to educate and then let you take it from there, even though my bias is going to come out big time. Right. Now, I am actually on the plan right now. I have been. I am a small business owner. I could go get private, quote-unquote, private insurance. The numbers are even higher, right, because they've negotiated. And I want to put out a couple caveats on that. So I've been on this for 7 years now. The fees have gone up significantly every year. I'm not talking, small increases. I'm talking major ones. So the first lie was it's going to cut cost and hold cost.
Absolutely, and better quality care.
And all that, right?
And there'll be more doctors.
But that doesn't even, He's really cuddling with me today. Henry wants to be involved in this. What I really wanted to do
wants
is,
to be your hat.
when I talk to people about this, they have no clue. Because a lot of people get insurance through their employer.
That's correct.
They don't understand. And they think, because that moniker was been out there since day one, that this is quote-unquote affordable health care.
But also keep in mind, when this was passed, the goal of Obamacare was to eventually work to the point where the entire country was on a single-payer system.
God help us if that ever happens.
And when then President Obama was talking to people, he said, look, we didn't get it this time, but as we work closer and further down the road, eventually we will end up in a single-payer system. That was the goal. They wanted all of us on the same program, except, by the way, those in Congress who had their own program.
Oh, you stole my thunder on that. I was going to come down the road. I was going to talk about that. And we will. Don't worry.
I'm sure.
But I thought it would be fun to kind of, well, not fun, but educational to kind of talk about it in real-world terms. Because you hear things in the media, you hear politicians pontificate about it. These are real-world numbers, okay?
And they affect a real-world person. And
that person would be me.
An average, every ordinary person.
Yep. So
nothing special about it at all.
Middle-class person. Go ahead. Take your shot.
No, nothing special about you. Just average,
all
ordinary.
Right, go ahead.
You're just everyday Joe.
Everyday Dan. Now, I want you to understand some caveat. I am 60 years old, so that does affect the rates. Your age comes into play. My income blocks me from getting any assistance.
Correct.
All right? And it's not just my income, because even though my wife has a plan through her employer, they cannot and will not cover me, because this is the other thing. Well, let's talk about that right now since we're there. Back in the day, back when Bill was, in his late 80s, generally it was that you got your health care through your employer.
And it covered the family.
And it covered the family, spouse, kids,
children,
all of that. Most plans, not all, now have morphed into where they will cover the employee and children. They will not cover the spouse anymore. So the spouse,
26 now.
What's that?
Up to 26.
Oh, the kid's up to 26, which then falls on the parents. So, the 25-year-old slacker living in mom's basement gets his insurance for free. That's a whole other show. But I want people to understand this, how this has drastically changed things, because it's taken away that benefit from things. There's a reason the corporations were behind this.
Should have saved them a fortune.
A fortune doesn't even begin to cover it, right? And it all fell back on those of us who don't work for a company or own our own business or whatever, now have to pick up our own costs. And a lot of people think that's the way it should be. Fine. But it's going to be affordable. I had so many people tell me, Dan, what are you worried about? It's going to be affordable. They're telling you, it's right in the name. Because the government has never lied, Bill.
Never.
So let's kind of dive into some of the numbers.
Said the people who have an unlimited bank account that anything can be affordable.
Yeah. The multi-millionaires who have a fully paid, taxpayer-funded plan and don't have to pay a dime for anything for, in some cases, life, because they're pretty much all lifers.
Yeah, and they get free medical, free food, they get free haircuts, they get free
housing,
gyms.
They get housing allowances,
and they
office
get
allowances.
millions of dollars to do their office allowances.
Yep.
They're suffering.
But they drive Teslas, but somehow or another they can't afford to live in Washington, D.C. on $175,000 a year. Remember AOC did that one?
Yeah.
So I kind of what I did was, as it's this time of year to do that, I've gotten all my information through healthcare.gov. That's the website. You can go look this stuff up yourself. Nothing I'm telling you is made up. It is directly off that site. All right. For my particular case, it's in the state of North Carolina. Another thing people don't understand is each state has different rates potentially, different coverages, different companies. So I don't know if you know this, Bill, but a couple of years ago in North Carolina, there were only was only one option.
That's true.
Blue Cross Blue
That's
Shield.
absolutely, that was it.
Right? That was it. There was no competition. That was the other selling point they told us. There's going to be a ton of competition.
Yes.
There was none a couple years ago.
And they're going to allow people crossover from state to state and do their
All this stuff, right? Then they got in a second one, which was United Healthcare, because I actually switched from Blue Cross to United. And I'm going to be honest, United plan for, this was in 21, I believe. United's plan was actually pretty good.
And for those of you who don't know it, Blue Cross has hired United Healthcare to administrate their programs.
Well, yeah, it is. Now things have changed more. Some would say to the better. I'm going to argue to the worse. Now there are 29 plans just in the bronze level alone from different companies.
Mm-hmm.
Some are, like Blue Cross has several, United has several, but there's multiple companies.
Aetna has them.
They're all in there. So I will give credit where credit's due. There is now more options. Funny though, they all cost pretty much the exact same amount.
None of them being good options,
No,
but they are there.
There's not one yet that I have found that I want to sign up for. All right, so I've put out the caveats. I'm 60. My income precludes me from getting any assistance. And I want you to understand something. I don't make six figures. I make pretty much what the average household income would make, I think, if you took both sides in North Carolina.
I think that's a fair statement.
I don't want to give the number out, but it's on the paper. Bill's seen it. My wife's income gets counted against me, but even if you take that out, I still wouldn't qualify for anything, right? So, again,
even though your wife is not eligible to be...
Even though she is
has to have her own.
Well, she's eligible. She could take a plan.
Yeah, but she doesn't get covered under yours.
She would be ludicrous to do that, right? So let's kind of talk about it. So the way these plans are set up, there's different levels. There's bronze, silver, and gold. So bronze is your basic plan. Bronze is the plan they tell everyone is the affordable, free one for most people and all that, which is a load of crap. Okay.
But there are 29 choices.
But there are 29 choices. But just to give you perspective on what you're getting for free, because if you make minimum wage up to, I don't remember the exact number, but I believe it's up around $40,000 or $50,000, you're going to get your plan for free. It's somewhere in there. Okay. Depends on the state too, by the way.
Yeah, but we get to explore that when you get a chance, because there's some things that go with it.
Go ahead. Let's do it right now.
You may get it for free and not have to pay your monthly coverage, but you're going to still have a $7,000-$8,000 deductible.
Oh, wait, we're going to get into the coverages. Oh,
okay, so just leave that alone for later.
We're going into
Okay,
there.
I'll leave that alone for now.
So what you do get, the positives, because I'm going to start positive, Bill.
That shouldn't take long. And
You
then
get
we'll
your
go to the other side.
free physical every year, Bill. Isn't that
That's
wonderful?
true. The doctors have to give you a free physical that's actually paid for by them anyway.
Do you know what they cover on that physical?
Hi, I'm the doctor. Are you okay?
Pretty much it.
And then they ask you, have you fallen? Do you smoke?
Oh, they don't ask me that. They ask you that.
Do you smoke? Have you ever smoked?
Yeah,
Do you drink?
stuff like that, yeah.
Do you assault your family?
Yeah. The general, you go in, you say hi to your doctor. That's a great way of putting it. Blood work?
No, not in that
Not
one.
covered. So I have to get blood work. I have a thyroid condition. I have to actually get blood work every 3 months. It costs me $300 roughly each time. To the point I've now said to the doctor, I ain't getting the blood work anymore. So even though I'm supposed to be tested, my doctor is like, I get it, right? Because that's $1,200 a year.
And that's real dollars.
That's real dollars. That's just blood work.
That's net.
Then,
not
by the
gross.
way, she's got to get paid to look at what the blood work says. And those appointments are not free because it's not a physical.
No.
You've got to pay your copay.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, I'm being treated for a thyroid issue. I not only have to pay for the blood test, I get my physical every January. That one's free. So I get that one free. But the other 3 appointments I'm supposed to have, I have to pay for at
Which
my
are
deductible.
all part of that annual.
Which they should be free, but they're not. People think they're free. They are not. Okay? And it depends on your plan level. We're going to get into the numbers in a minute here. My deductible right now is $50 per physician's visit. So it's $300 for the blood work and another $50 to go see her. So $350 every 3 months, or 3 months, 3 times a year, because I get the one free.
See?
Think about that for a second. Do the math in your head. Now, let's get into some numbers and I want to touch on some of the stuff Bill talks about. There are different plans at different levels. And as you're listening to this, understand these are my numbers. So Bill's would be different. Our producer Greta's would be different because she's a woman, so she gets different rates.
But they're going to be close.
Even though we're roughly the same age.
They're going to be close.
They're not as close as you think.
Yeah.
And then, somebody who is 30 years old is going to have different rates than mine. Also, the state comes into play.
Well, you see, the basis for that, though, goes back to the fact that when the president put this plan out, the idea was young people are healthy, so they don't need the insurance. They just pay for it for the older people to go do their insurance rates.
Yeah, it hasn't worked out that way.
Not really.
It's the old people paying for the younger now.
That's right. So,
all right.
But that was the theory behind it.
That was the lie behind it. This whole thing is an out-and-out lie.
Okay.
I mean, it's ridiculous. So understand, like, I used to be on New York's version. Now I'm in on North Carolina's version. Which do you think's more expensive?
North Carolina.
They're actually about the same. But
that was a trick question.
It was but what's the cost of living difference here versus New York?
Oh, night and day.
Right. So, again, there's not a lot of difference there. Now, if you were to go to California, the rates, because I have friends that are business owners in California.
Pick one.
Most people are dropping their insurance in California. They cannot afford it. Okay?
And what needs to be pointed out here, and why would they drop their insurance? Because the government has already told the hospitals, if someone comes in and needs to be treated, you need to deal with them. So whether they get insurance or not, you're going to take care of it. So what they need to be doing is when they come in someone that's uninsured that they have to treat, heart attack, whatever else they have, those costs have to be passed on to somebody else. And
it ain't free.
And nothing is free. And guess who's paying that? You are.
All right. Let's dive in a little bit further.
Yes, sir.
All right, we're having fun with this. Well, I am. Let's just start out. There's 3 different levels. There's bronze, there's silver, and there's gold.
We're going to take a break now and pay a few bills before we get heavily into these reports because it's going to be very, very interesting and you're going to be very surprised.
All right, we'll be back in a couple minutes.
Welcome back for part 2 of our Medicare expose.
Obamacare
expose.
Medicare is what you have.
Right. Yeah. We're going to do Obamacare. We're going to expose him. And my friend, or used to be my friend, is going to continue talking about some of the facts that he has to face under Obamacare. How's that?
Not I have to face. We all have to face.
Well, yeah, but you're a shining example.
That's
using
because
your head
as
has
an
no
example.
hair.
Sorry. All right. As I said before the break, 3 different levels. We're going to start with bronze because that is from what I understand, that is the one most people go on. For obvious reasons, it's the cheapest. Now, these numbers I'm going to give do not take into account anything you might get as an allowance against it.
Right.
All right. So again, if your income is $20,000 a year and you're 30 years old, this whole thing might be paid for. That is true. I don't want to make it seem that that's not true. It is 100% true. The average person, though, the average family, it is not true. You might get some money. You might get all of it covered. You might get, in my case, none of it covered. All right. So I just of the 20 whatever plans there were, I randomly picked 3. I didn't even look at them other than to scroll, and I said that one, and I'll pull the numbers. All right. So plan 1 has a monthly premium of $872.61. All right. And these are in no particular order, by the way, too. Think about that for a second. 870. Let's just call it 800. Let's call it $900 just to get to a round number per week. 4 weeks. 250. Well, less than that. 225 per month. Or per week, it's about $225 to have this plan.
Okay. Now
ballpark. I'm ballpark, right?
That's a 4-week month, yeah.
Think about this for a second. $225 a week.
After taxes.
Go ahead. Oh, I thought you were going to run with it. All right.
No, I'm just
All right.
simply pointing out that after taxes, that means
After you get paid.
after you get your gross and you subtract what the feds are owed, what the states owed, anything else you got coming out of it, now the first $225 goes for medical insurance.
Right. So if you make, again, I'm going to pick an easy number, $1,000 a week, 20% of your income, poof, every week.
And go there and start with 1,000. Normally, you're going to program 20 to 25% of it to cover taxes. So you're down to about $750.
Some states it's more like 30 to 40.
Well, let's just go with
yeah.
minimal states. So now you're down to $750 on a regular monthly basis.
And then you're going to back this out of that.
Now out of the $750, you're pulling about $900.
Gee, you wonder why people can't afford housing and food right now. Okay. So again, 870. The exact number for me is 872.61, which they do some other calculations. It works out to $13,381 a year, which based on my income is 18% of my gross income, to Bill's point.
Gross or net?
Gross.
Okay.
Before taxes. So if you back out taxes and all that, it goes to your example, right?
Yeah,
now,
then you're well above 18%.
Yeah, but it gets better. It gives me my free physical, but I have a $7,000 deductible on that plan, which means if I get sick and have to go to the hospital,
the first $7,000
the first $7,000 is on me. So that $13,000 we just talked about is actually 20 round numbers. Okay. Then they're so kind, Bill.
They did maximize your out-of-pocket.
They did cap it at $9,450. Okay?
See that?
And this, just to give perspective, I pulled doctor's visits out because that's what most people are common. You go to the hospital, that's insanity. But, if you go to the doctor, you get the flu. Or, you get a boo-boo and you got to go to the doctor, right? Depending on what it's for, is $100 to $150 per visit. That's the copay. Now, I can tell you right now, cash price for a doctor's visit for me is about $225. So they're expecting me roughly to pay half. And then prescriptions, which I have, obviously I have a thyroid issue, is $20 every time I fill it. And I get that filled for it. So, start thinking about this in terms of cost. The next plan, a little bit more expensive, $970, $970.98. And I will have these on the screen at times. Again, it's weird how the costs are, because they do these weird calculations for cost, because they're also assuming like what work you're going to have to done. Like in my case, they asked me, are you going to have any surgeries or anything like that? Stuff like that.
I was planning on breaking my leg later.
Yeah, I mean, So again, roughly the same amount across the board, except the deductible's only $6,700. A whopping $300 cheaper for me. Woo, baby.
Whopping $300. Look at
Woo!
that.
I could pay 1 month of my premium. No, I could pay 1/3 of 1 month of my premium with that savings. Out of pocket, a little over $8,000. Doctors is at $50. These are the low cost plans. Let me emphasize that. Prescriptions $5. The third option is $969.80 a month. $7,000 deductible, $85.50 out of pocket max, and $65 to $100 per doctor's visit.
Now, but go back and again look at these numbers. If you take the first bronze program, which has basically $94.50 coming out of your pocket, worst case. Mm-hmm. You go to the second plan where you're now paying roughly $100 a month more, and you take that over 12 months and you add it to the $850, you're within striking distance of the same number. So what's changed?
Not much. It's all how they manipulate it. Mm-hmm. And here's one I guarantee you didn't know. So when you go on the exchange to get these plans, like I said, there's 20 whatever in the bronze. Many of them don't tell you how much the doctor's visit is. It just says you're covered after you pay your deductible. So that to me, and there is nowhere, I spent an hour researching it, nowhere in there on some of these plans does it say what it's going to cost you to go to the doctor, which means to me, it's probably you're paying it all. Let that sink in for the average middle-class American.
And if you take his third offer for bronze, again, I'm just looking at numbers again, mm-hmm. which is out of pocket of $85.50, go back to the same $970 versus the $872, $100 a month, you add it to the $85.50, you're actually paying more for that policy than if you took the basic plan at the first round and getting nothing out of it.
The net of all of it, if you look at all the plans, they all work out to be about the same in the long run. Yeah, they manipulate certain things to kind of, somebody who wants a lower deductible might go for this one. Someone who wants to pay more, or have a higher deductible but pay less premium, they'll go for. It's all manipulation. It's marketing. It's not about the coverage. It's marketing. And it is not to the benefit of anyone. That's the brunt. Those are the affordable ones, Bill.
Right. And this is all set up with the idea that, basically what they're offering you is catastrophic coverage, and that's about it.
And even then, though, catastrophic means cancer, something like that.
Major heart attack.
Maybe
a transplant.
And to be fair, that you're capped at your maximum out of pocket, which, by the way, we all had with our normal insurance plans back in the 2000s.
Yes, and
it was lower.
A whole lot less than what these were costing.
So the standard deductible back in the late 2010 era, my case was about $1,000. Yours is different because you were military and all that, right? For me, an average person, most years my deductible was about $1,000. So I never paid more than $1,000, ever. And by the way, the cost to me, my then wife, and 5 of our 6 kids, because one was my stepson and his dad covered him. So 5 kids, me and my wife, my out-of-pocket out of my check, and I made more money then than I do now, was about $150. A third of this. So I got paid twice a month. So about $300 for everybody. This is just me.
And three times
as much in 12 years.
But
let this sink in,
making
people.
Affordable care.
It's affordable. And both parties support it now. Back then it was different. You're right. 2018, they could have fixed this. They had both houses and the presidency.
Yep, and they didn't.
We'll get into that in a moment.
At the next break?
Yeah. How are we doing, producer? Just so we know. We're good. All right. So let's go silver. All right. I know I'm talking a lot.
Hi-ho.
Hi-ho silver. Or, oh, fuck, you're screwed silver. All right? Yeah, I used the F-bomb there. So, again, in theory, slightly better plans. So, I randomly picked 3. I believe off the top of my head there were 29 silver plans available, if I remember right. So, plan 1, again, I picked these at random out of that, $1177.22 per month, which works out to a little over $16,000 per year, estimated cost, over 20% of your income. Guess what? The deductibles about the same, really.
Down $6,000.
Down to $6,000. Woo! Your out of pocket drops to about $8,500. Doctor's visits still $30 to $60, and prescription, that's where you save $3.
But again, go back to my other numbers. Take the first row,
$1177
versus the $872, roughly $300 a month times 30 till 12 months makes $3,600. Add that to your $8,500, and you're now paying much more than if you went to bronze.
But you figured that out. I knew that too. I would venture to guess 90% of the people don't understand that, because the way they put it on the website, they never explain that ever. It's nowhere on there. This is insanity. Okay. Next silver plan, $1158.82, $15,300 roughly for estimated cost. Again, that 20% of your income, $6,300 deductible, $8,000 cap, $45 to $100 per visit. Depends what the visit's for. So when I give the lower number, that's a generic. You walk in and see your primary care for, you have the flu and they're going to give you Tamiflu or whatever.
I got a cold.
Right.
I got a
the
bloody
100
nose.
might be going to see a specialist. But there's a range in there that can be different things. And then again, the 3. So all of the silvers have a $3 payment for prescription. And then the third one, again, if you look at it, $1198.91, $15,200 out of pocket, estimated yearly cost, $5,700 deductible, right? $7,400 out of pocket maximum, $40 to $100 per visit, etc. So again, what we're talking about dollar-wise here is now we're going to roughly $300 a week, rounding.
Round numbers.
For a single person. Imagine what this would be if you had to cover both in a family at this level. Now you're really talking some serious money. And that happens a lot. Now, there is a little bit of a break, because I know that, but it ain't that much. Okay?
Yeah, but you know, they've come out with programs to help families like WIC, Women's, Infants, and Children.
Yeah.
Doesn't affect you.
I ain't getting that.
Unless you declare yourself a filling.
Nor is my wife getting it. Because she can't have children right now. She's a little older for that. I mean, and WIC is...
Women's, Infants, and Children.
Yeah, but that's food, Bill. That's food, milk. Yes,
this
it is.
It's also medical.
It has some medical. Not
Because
everything.
I know people that have
I
put
do
their
too.
kids on it for like $50-$60 each a month.
And then the third level is the gold. So $1,275 is plan one that I picked. Again, there's 20 whatever plans for gold. Now you're talking 16.2. The net of the gold, I'm not going to read them all. I'll have them on the screen. Basically, you're looking somewhere between $1,200 and $1,500. In my case, 22% of my income, gross income, by the way. Deductibles, the best plan is $750 deductible, $1,400 on the worst, or excuse me, $1,500 on the worst one. Your out of pockets are essentially the same. Your doctor's visits are lower. So the gold plans, the real difference between the three plans is the deductible, as they market it.
But again, looking at those same plans, you are $400 to $600 a month higher.
Exactly.
And if you take that times 12 and then add it to your out of pocket, you are significantly blowing those numbers out of the water.
Exactly.
You're better off going back to old Bronze 101.
See, what they're trying to do is get those people that sit there and go, well, you know, I only make $1,000 a week. I got to make sure I cover myself the best I can so I don't have a high medical bill. So I'll get the lowest deductible I can, and they end up actually, in many cases, paying more. These numbers should be scaring people.
Well, again, take the last one you gold unit there. You have a $600 difference there, around actually a little over $600.
Mm-hmm.
You denominate times 12, and then you add it to the $7,500, which brings it significantly higher than the $9,400 you pay out of pocket.
Funny how that is.
The basic plan.
But Bill, you're only paying $15 to go see your doctor instead of $100.
Actually, you could be only paying $1.
Well, some of them, yeah. I mean, well, that dollar, I have to look into that one. I purposely picked that plan because it is, in theory, the lowest deductible and
That's
visit.
for quacks.
Yeah, I don't know who you're going to see for the buck.
Chiropractors 101.
Because it said there are exclusions, and I did not get that
like
far
anybody with a
into it.
medical license.
Right. But the point we want to make with this, for this part of the discussion, is that this is not affordable. Right? The average family in the United States probably makes what? 50 to 60? Somewhere in there?
60 plus or minus.
It's going to vary depending on state.
Yeah, but figure 60 is a basic.
60. You're talking a third of your income.
Oh, yeah.
And that, by the way, that's not counting if you have to go to the doctor. These numbers are just for your insurance.
And it's not counting if your wife's got to buy it.
Then you're adding another. And trust me, this is why small businesses are dying, because they can't afford it.
Well,
and on that note,
I think we should let them die for a minute.
Break.
We'll come back and we'll see what we can do to revive them.
Then we're going to talk about maybe solutions and
we have lots of solutions.
Assigning some blame. All right, we'll be back in a couple of minutes.
The Republican solution.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Reclaiming America. You might notice that it's just little old me right now. Fortunately, Bill had a prior appointment and he couldn't stay any longer. and he had to leave, so he left it in my more than capable hands. And no, I'm not going to take any shots at him because he's not here to defend himself. But we're talking about Obamacare and the realities of it. So we've kind of talked about the numbers that I'm dealing with. These are real world numbers. These are not numbers that are made up or fictitious. They are literally off the North Carolina exchange, which is where I live, verbatim. So for anyone that's sitting there going, well, that's not reality. No, that is reality. All right. And the numbers in your state may be different, higher or lower. I would suspect most of them are about the same. And again, we're not taking into account with these numbers anything along the lines of you might get, assistance, as I call it. So, someone who might be younger or makes less money, their premium is going to be different than mine. But the general gist of it is this is how it works. And that's the key part that you need to take from this, right? This belief that's out there that, one, everybody gets it for free. And I've heard many, many, many people say, well, what do you mean you have to pay? Isn't it free? No, it is not free. The majority of the people pay into it. Very few people get it free, actually. All right. The other side of it is they pitch this as affordable, and I'm doing the old air quotes on purpose, right? Way back when, they still pitch it as affordable. As you can see, 15, 18, 20% of your income, 25% of your income, gross income. Is that affordable? I don't know about you, but to me, it's not. And this speaks directly to where the issue is, because we've talked about the plans. And we've talked a little bit about the history. I want to talk about where do we go from here, right? So many people like to blame the Democratic Party solely for this. And to be blunt, in the beginning, it was 100% them. As Bill and I talked about at the beginning, when this got rammed through, and this was a huge deal in 2010, huge deal. In fact, the Democrats rolled into Congress and ran on, we're going to get affordable health care passed. And then they wanted it passed fast. As we talked about earlier, they didn't bother reading their own bill. And it was a monstrous, if I remember off the top of my head, it was 5,000 something pages. And they had a couple of days to vote for it. So there was this whole issue about, well, no one can read it in that time, let alone digest it, understand it, and all that. And Nancy Pelosi infamously said, I'll read it after I pass it. And that's what she did. And now here we are, right? This is devastating to the American family. It is, in my opinion, what is leading to the destruction of the middle class as much as anything. It's not the sole cause. I don't want to imply that. But you think about it in the perspective, if a family, let's say you have a husband and wife who are making the infamous $15 an hour, right? Obviously, some people make more, some people make less, but let's just use that number. Both couples, or both parts of the couple, is going to work out to roughly $61,000 in gross income a year. Not a lot of money. But oh, by the way, that assistance that you get to lower the cost, I don't know the number exactly now, but a couple of years ago, if you were over $60,000, you weren't getting anything. So it's not a lot of money you're going to get, all right, to offset the cost of these plans. That's pre-tax. So it, again, depends on your state. New York, California is going to be way higher. Other states have no income tax. When you net it all out, if you look across the country, the number I like to use is 22%. And it's a midpoint. Some states, as I said, are higher. Some are a little bit lower. But if you take your federal, state, other taxes that come out of your check, Social Security and all that, somewhere in the neighborhood of 22. You want to argue it might be a different number, that's fine. But let's just go with that number. Applying that to our $61,000 that they've brought in as a couple, that brings them down to about $47,500. And now they're looking at premiums in the thousands of dollars. Because if both of them need coverage, those numbers I gave you almost double. So you might be paying $2,000 a month for insurance. And I know that because in 2021, I was paying $2,400 per month for health insurance for my wife and I. On an income, remember, this is pandemic and we owned a gym. We were shut down for part of the year. And business was in the tank. Our income that year barely broke 60,000. Yet I was paying 20. I'm sorry, I said 20. It's 2020 is the number. Our net was basically a third of our income covered our insurance. We had to make do the rest. And when you factor taxes in between insurance and taxes, it was over half our income was going to that. How is someone supposed to survive that? No one can. How are you going to live on it? Then you have, so let's say you've taken your taxes out, you got 47.5, and then you're taking out, I'm trying to round these numbers. Let's just say for the sake of argument, between the two of them, they get $1,500 in premium. It's actually higher than that. Well, 1,500 is times 12 is, off the top of my head, $17,000 off your 47. So now they're living on $30,000 a year. They got to pay rent, food, utilities, car payment or car insurance, all of that out of the rest of it. If you're wondering why the American family is struggling so much, that's a big part of it. Remember, this was pitched as a affordable plan. They made it seem like the majority of people were going to get it for free. It is anything but. Where do we go from here? Well, here's the thing. Back, and Bill and I talked about this a little bit ago. Back in 2016 through 18, the Republican Party was saying, we're going to fix this. We're going to do something. Well, in the end, they did nothing. I mean, they made some changes, but effectively they did nothing. The Democrats aren't going to change it. And obviously the Republicans aren't either. It's not going to get changed. It's going to only get worse. It's getting more expensive by the year. Coverage is getting, the rates as far as like deductibles, costs for visits and all that are going up every single year. Who's getting that money? Well, doctors, hospitals, insurance companies. They're the ones that are profiting from it. And oh, by the way, who then takes some of that money and donates it to the politicians? You got it. So again, it's the destruction of the middle class that's going on with this. The long-term fix, I don't know. I don't think either party is going to focus on that. Most people don't know the realities of it. Again, as I said, I hear all the time, you pay how much? I remember having a conversation with someone who's as far left as you can be, who literally thought it was free. And then I showed her my premium payments every month, and she was floored. And she said, I had done a ton of research on this. It's the way it's been marketed. It's the way it's been pitched on all levels, in the media, again, the public perception, all of that, social media, all of it. Do I think it should be done away with? Because I get asked that a lot. No, I don't. It needs to be fixed. To what that level that is, I don't know, because healthcare is getting more and more expensive by the day, forget year. Companies, corporations are going away from health insurance. They want to get that single payer option. Bill alluded to that earlier. That's may or may not be the solution. I'm not a fan of it. I'm actually very much against it. I know people that are very much in favor of it, and they'll cite things like Canada and the UK as the examples. Well, I have friends in Canada. One friend is waiting 9 months already to get an MRI on her knee. You know, UK, I've heard similar stories. Single payer or universal health care, if you prefer to call it that, is not the panacea that everybody thinks it is. Very much like this, right? They pitch it as a certain thing, but they don't tell you the negatives to it. And that's what our goal was with this, is to kind of educate you. Long term, I don't know what's going to happen. This is not going away. It's never going to be revoked. Kind of like now become the third rail, or fourth rail, sorry, because Social Security is the third rail. This is the fourth. If they tried to take it away, the uproar would be insane. Unless we can figure out a way to get the doctors, and more precisely, the companies running the hospitals, because using my local area, there are the family doctor, that individual, they don't exist anymore. And I'm sure in your area they don't either. They're all part of practices. They used to be known as HMOs, right? They've all grouped together. And these are huge companies. Where I am, Novant's the primary care. They own the hospital, which the government used to run, and it was actually run extremely well. Credit where credit's due, and prices were reasonable. I mean, they were not cheap, but they were reasonable. They sold it to Novant for $1 billion, and Novant has jacked the price up. Their care levels have gone in the toilet. Their response from, and I've had some of their doctors tell me they're leaving because it's so bad. And again, the costs go up and up and up. It's a for-profit as opposed to the government, which was not for profit. So how do we fix it? I don't know. I would throw it out to you to say to me in the comments, what's your solution? What do you think we need to do? Is it fair to ask the doctors to take a pay cut? I've heard people say that. I don't know. As a trainer, I've had clients who are doctors. I had one, I've talked about this on this show many months ago, but I had a doctor. He was a premier cardiologist for children. So he did operations on children who had heart conditions. His premium for his malpractice, January 1 of every year, is over $1 million. His insurance. That's what he's got to pay out, because what happens, unfortunately, is he works on these kids. Sometimes they don't make it, and the parents want to blame someone, so they sue him. I remember him telling me, I get sued every 12 to 18 months, and he's never, by the way, never lost. And he doesn't even vilify the parents to do it. He gets it, right? They're looking to blame someone, but he's got to pay over $1 million a year. Well, that's not coming out of his pocket per se. I mean, it is, but he's got to pass that cost on. The same thing happens with the groups and all that. So when you look at litigation going on and all that, you hear these, this person won $4 million or $40 million or $400 million. That all goes into these costs. The biggest issue, in my opinion, is litigation. We could bring costs down by reducing that in whatever way that's possible. But this is the reality, folks. And the sad part to me is that most people don't know that. And as we move forward as a country, I think it's only going to get worse. I think you're going to see more and more corporations doing away with their health care plans. They're going to say, go get it on the exchange. You're going to see less and less coverages, right? What they'll cover for the basics is going to change, and it's only going to get worse. And by the way, quick side note, things pop in my brain while I'm talking. This does not include dental or eye care. So if anyone's thinking, well, what about dental or eye care? That is an additional fee on top of this. None of the numbers that I gave include that. But you can get dental care through the exchange, and in some instances, vision care. I've been told it's not available everywhere. In fact, most places don't have vision. But dental is not cheap either. If you actually look at the exchange plans for dental, they're insane. And again, it covers very little. I have a dental plan through the exchange. I'm capped at $800. I get free cleaning every year, 2 of them. That's good. That's a good thing. They cost me, if I were to pay out of pocket, they'd be about $200 because I asked the dentist. So I could pay $400 with no dental and hope that I don't have a cavity or need some other surgery, filling, whatever, and save money, because the plan costs me almost $1,000 a year. Again, Bill mentioned earlier, it's about catastrophic coverage, and I understand that. But in the end, it's breaking the back of the American family. Because the other part of this that we haven't talked about yet, and I don't have much of time, but I want to kind of allude to this a little bit, is when they pitched this plan, the goal was to have the younger people pay for the older. They were going to get all these people on the plan that were in their 20s and don't need a lot of health care and would be good with just their physical every year. And they were going to fund this whole thing, much like the way they do Social Security. The assumption is the younger people are covering for the older. It hasn't worked out. Because of the cost of this, the younger people are not doing it. They're self-insuring. I may self-insure this year. Because if I have to pay out that much money, I can take that money and put it in the bank and then pay the bills as I need them. I don't know. I don't know if that's a good option. But the younger people who don't have a risk of maybe needing, like in my case, I might need, say, cataract surgery or whatever. Or, I'm 60 years old. I could have a heart attack or whatever. Obviously, as you get older, the risks increase. Younger people don't have as much of a risk. They're opting to bank the money. I'm not going to pay it out, which means that the costs are rising for everyone to the numbers that we talked about. This is the reality, and it's got to change. How? I don't know. Everything they talked about when they were pitching this, if you go back and look at it, and I invite you to get on Google or DuckDuckGo or whatever one you're using, Bing, and go read what they were saying, the politicians specifically. Go read the promises that they made, all right? And now come back and watch this and see for real what they said and what it is. And then go to your politician, your congressman or woman, your senator, and ask them, what are you going to do? Why have you allowed this to happen? And make no mistake, it's on them right now. Doesn't matter what party, by the way. All right? This needs to be fixed. If they truly, and both parties say this, they truly care about the people and they care about the middle class, they need to address this, and they need to address it now. Because otherwise, it's just going to be getting worse and worse by the day. What do you think? That's what I want to know, right? So put it in the comments. Unfortunately, Bill had to leave because I would love to have gotten his opinion at that point, but I want to hear your opinions. Comment below. Were you in favor of this back in 2010, if you're old enough to have been part of that, right? Did you want them to vote for it? Now, what do you think? Has it worked out? Has it not? You might disagree with me you might think it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. But I also invite you, when you say that, have you ever been on one of these plans? Have you ever had to pay the premiums? Because what you're going to find is most people that are in favor of it either have never been on it, have no idea what it is, or they've gotten it for free. So put that in there. Let's be honest about it. Let's have a conversation. Let's talk about it. What is your solutions? How do you think we fix that? So get in the comments. Let's have a dialogue about it, because this is an important thing, not just for me or you, it's for everyone. On that note, we're going to go ahead and wrap things up. Hey, give us a like or a dislike. I'll take the dislike. I'm good with that. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Click that little button, click that little bell so you get notified. We do release a new show every Monday at 6 p.m. It is available on Rumble. It is available on YouTube. We have also, we do TikTok and Rumble for Shorts and YouTube. So Bill does commentaries pretty much every day. You can go in and hear them. Let him know how you feel, because we both enjoy reading your comments more than anything else. And, come back and see us. All right, on that note, I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up. Thanks to Bill, even though he had to leave. I wish him well. And we'll see you next time on Reclaiming America.